the Secure Act and retirement. That's what we're going to talk about on Your Wealth Health today, March 7th, 2020. Hello and welcome to Your Wealth Health. I'm Erik Brenner, president and founder of Hilltop Wealth Solutions, and I'm going to be your host. And I'm really excited to be weekly here on Fox Michiana, bringing you everything financial to help educate you, teach you, and hopefully things that you can utilize each and every week. If you can't follow us, you can certainly follow us on yourwealthhealth.com, where we will be broadcasting, as well as Hilltop Wealth Solutions Facebook page. What we're going to talk about today and the next several weeks is retirement planning and the Secure Act. And with me today, I have a partner in the firm, Beth Foley. Beth, thanks for joining me.
I'm happy to be here finally.
Yeah, this is really exciting.
It is exciting to be down here in South Bend.
Very exciting. So Beth is from our office up in Royal Oak, Michigan, and so she's joined me for the day for the show, since it is our very first show. And we're going to talk about a very important topic, which is retirement planning. And specifically, we'll get into the Secure Act. And the Secure Act was passed January 1st, and it was actually the biggest piece of retirement legislation that happened in the last decade. And it's got a lot of variables in it, and so we really wanted to break it down over the next several weeks to give you some good information as you think about your retirement. You know, the way we think about retirement is kind of like a journey. You start climbing the mountain. The journey is saving and investing and making the right decisions. And of course, you have a lot of financial decisions kind of over your saving years. That may be kids' college, you know, paying for a mortgage, and many other decisions that come up. But as you're making that journey kind of down along the way, you start climbing the mountain. And as you climb the mountain, you need to make sure that you're really making the right financial decisions. So when you get to the top of the mountain and you're ready to come down, and what that really means is it retirement? And oftentimes retirement's not just fully not working. It may be actually retiring to something. And so it's really important to make sure that you're climbing the mountain and making those right decisions. So Beth, we want to really get into talking about some of the things that are critical, particularly in the Secure Act. There were a lot of things that happened in that, wasn't there?
There are a lot of things that happened in the Secure Act. We think about it as maybe it's just the big one about required minimum distributions, but there's a whole lot more going on in there, and not all of them apply just to retirement. They snuck in a few things with regard to college planning as well, that we'll spend some time talking about a little bit too.
Yeah, they always tend to kind of sneak a couple things in there, don't they?
Exactly.
Yeah, so this Secure Act was kind of interesting because last summer there was a lot of energy around it, and I know it got through the House with flying colors.
It got through the House very quickly.
And then kind of just stalled out with everything else that went on last year, right?
Yeah, there are a couple things going on last year, so it got a little stalled out, but they got to it and they signed it in December, and the president signed off on it, and it went into effect on January 1.
Yeah, so all right, so let's kind of dig into it. So if you take a look at your screen, let's talk about some of the highlights. Number one is contributing to a traditional IRA after 70 and a half, which prior to the law,
nope, couldn't
do it.
Mm-mm.
So
no.
Yeah, benefit there.
This is a really interesting one. I have a client who, she laughs and she tells me that she failed at retirement. She retired on December 30th. And she was back to work in a new role on January 6th, I think. And part of her compensation package is a contribution to an IRA for her. And this client in particular turned 72 at the end of March. So before the Secure Act, she couldn't have had that part of her compensation package because it could only go into a retirement account, an IRA. But with the Secure Act, now she can accept that part of her compensation and make a contribution to an IRA while she continues in this year-long kind of consulting role that she's in. So we're going to talk about retirement, but I love that phrase of she failed at retirement. She tried it for about 5 days, didn't work for her. She went back. Yeah, so retirement is a choice.
Real interesting, because I know that there are a lot of folks out there that they maybe retire from their full-time job and then maybe, like you said, find out, I want to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Get back into the workforce. And this gives them a way to kind of continue to save money.
Exactly,
in a
as they're
tax-saving
making
way.
money and being able to put that money aside, because the concerns over taxes and taxable income, it's ingrained in you for the 40 years, 35, 40 years of your working life, and then to be working and say, wait a second, can I protect some of this money from taxes for future use? And this part of the Secure Act makes that a little bit easier to do.
Yeah. The next thing on the screen there is a spousal contribution as well, which can be beneficial. So you explain that for us a little
Well,
bit.
the spousal contribution is that if one spouse is working and can make an IRA contribution, the spousal contribution allows that a contribution can be made for the non-working spouse as well. So effectively giving you the opportunity to double up on your IRA contributions.
Then oftentimes I think that's definitely overlooked, having the spousal contribution.
It's really interesting. I remember, maybe it's just a change in demographics over the 32 years that I've been doing this, but in my first years as an advisor, we did spousal contributions all the time. Maybe it's just that working with more people that are dual income households where both spouses have a 401k plan. But that's not always the case. And a spousal contribution allows for savings to be done in the name of the non-working spouse as well.
Yeah, that's great. Number 3 there on the screen is 529 plans can be used for apprenticeships and then also to pay student loan repayments. They snuck that one in there.
They did. You would think, wait, we're talking about retirement with the Secure Act. But this snuck in there too, and I like this part of it. I was, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, we're only into 2 months through of the year, and I've already had a client ask about how they can utilize their 529 assets to make student loan payments. I think this is a great opportunity for financial planning or planning around college costs and so forth. Think about it. If you're building money in a 529 plan and your son or daughter is now heading off to college, now you've got a little bit of a choice. You've got some planning opportunities here. Do you use the 529 money to make payments for tuition and room and board and supplies or so forth? Or do you leave the money in the 529 plan? Maybe you have access to subsidized student loans, maybe unsubsidized student loans, but now you have a choice because you could say, right, I like my growth opportunity in this 529 plan, so let's leave the money there, borrow and use somebody else's money for a few years, and then use that 529 money in the future to make those loan payments. So you've got some planning opportunities when and how to use your 529 money coupled with student loans inside of there.
It's nice to have that flexibility, knowing that you're not worried about leaving some money in the 529 and being penalized.
Exactly. And I do like the idea of using somebody else's money if it makes sense for a little bit. The other piece of this is apprenticeship programs. We talk to a lot of people every day and have worked with families over the years. College isn't for everybody.
Yeah.
And the folks who may have been looking at a trade school and an apprenticeship program, 529s didn't make sense because you couldn't use those as qualified deductions from the 529 plan to pay those costs or fees. With the Secure Act, apprenticeship programs can now qualify to use 529 money. And, I live right outside of Detroit where, growth is booming, and the construction trades and the electric trades and all of those sorts of things. There's a high demand for people in those high paying jobs. 529 plans can now support that sort of career development as well.
Yeah, some great points. A couple things I want to bring up as far as future education. We wanted to let you know of some workshops that we have coming up in the community. It is going to be on maximizing your Social Security benefit during your retirement years. So if you're one with Social Security questions, March 26th, and March 31st at the Holiday Inn in Douglas Road, and you can sign up at hilltopwealthsolutions.com. When we return to Your Wealth Health, Beth and I will continue the discussion about retirement planning, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.
The day is breaking softly and the night is glowing true. I feel a million eyes, but I can just see you. No rain, no thunder, is just your light, your voice. The heaven of our kiss, the wonder of our choice. So breathe, 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 darling, you can make my love your home. Make my love your home. And please, 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 darling, do. If you can be right, be right. Make my love your home.
Welcome back to Your Wealth Health, and with me is Beth Foley, and we were talking about retirement planning, and particularly some of a couple things on here. Let's take a look at the screen. Really don't absolutely pertain to retirement, but
Yeah,
they were in
went
the
a little
Secure
off
Act.
topic. Yep,
Yeah.
where the Secure Act went a little bit off topic. So before the break, we were talking about 529 plans and greater accessibility to funds in there for apprenticeship and to pay student loan. And then another one, Eric, is this: if you're doing some family planning and how we can do some financial planning around family planning. With the Secure Act, you can now take a penalty-free distribution of up to $5,000 from IRAs or 401ks to offset some of the costs around a birth or an adoption.
Yeah, so that really could help a family that, again, a young family, right, that
Yeah.
has some money in a retirement plan.
In a 401k or an IRA, if you're trying to decide how to maybe extend a paternity or a maternity leave, or if your employer only offers a short amount of paid maternity leave time, that being able to access some of your money within your qualified account without penalty, you still would have to pay taxes on it, but up to $5,000 that you can use toward a qualified birth or adoption.
Yeah, that's a great point. And number 5 on the screen. So this, there's always a couple things that slip in there anytime we get some of this legislation, and you go, "Oh, that's interesting." It got put in there, but the 2-year provision on the medical expense deduction.
So here we are in March, and everybody's getting their taxes wrapped up or really getting into the heat of it. And one of the provisions of the 2018 tax changes that you talked about at the top of the show was some tax savings. But one piece in there made deducting medical expenses a little bit more challenging, where they took the 7.5% of adjusted gross income and increased it to 10%. So made it a bit of a bigger hurdle to get over. The Secure Act actually extended the extension. The Secure Act extended that 7.5% write-off for qualified medical expenses for 2 years. So for 2019 and 2020 tax returns, 7.5% goes up to 10% beginning in 2021.
So if you're able to itemize, it's something that may be able to help you out, although there's a lot less folks that are able to itemize now with the tax law changes back.
The
that were
higher
effective.
standard deductions, right?
Yeah. Number 6 on the screen there is allows part-time employees to participate in company retirement plans. This one I think is a really nice that they put it in. Because prior to this, if you were a part-time employee and your employer didn't really allow you to participate, and so if you have a plan at work, or maybe you should check and see if you have a plan at work if you're part-time, because A, you could participate, and B, there may be some match. Free money, Beth. We always say if there's free money out there with a match, get it.
Absolutely. We always suggest to our clients that if you're participating in your 401k and your employer offers a match, at the bare minimum, you should be contributing up to that match to get that free money. I would like to add that if your company does not provide a match, that is not a reason to not participate in the 401k plan, whether you're a full-time employee or a part-time person taking advantage of these new rules. Because think about it, within the 401k, if you want to save $1 for your retirement, you only have to make $1. But if you say, no, I'm not going to use the 401k, it doesn't give a match, the employer doesn't provide a match, I'm going to save that money on the outside. If you're in the 22% income tax bracket, to save $1, you now have to make $1.22 because the federal government and your state taxes, they're going to get a cut of that before you get your dollar to save. So If your employer does not provide a match, that to me is not an excuse for not using the 401k plan, because you're not going to beat those tax savings anyplace else.
Yeah, it's a great point. And that kind of leads me into something that we hear a lot. A lot more retirement plans are offering the Roth option. And the Roth option is simply, after-tax money. So you use the example of the pre-tax and saving tax money going in, which is certainly beneficial. But with the after-tax money goes in, it grows tax-deferred, and then it comes out tax-free, which is great. I always like tax-free.
Tax-free is good.
And we're seeing more and more of these, which is really good within company-provided plans. And let's talk a little bit on which is better. Because, the thing is that, people, we get this question a lot, how much should I put in a pre-tax? How much should I do in a Roth IRA, and which is better?
It all depends upon the person, I think. But the obvious one to me quite often is if somebody is just starting out in their career and they're young and they have 35, 40 plus years that they're going to be saving and contributing, that's a lot of years to grow on a tax-free basis, right? Yeah. And somebody who's just starting out in their career may or may not need the tax savings from a traditional 401k plan where you're putting your money in on a pre-tax basis. But I think the answer is which one is right or wrong is kind of like yes, or not right or wrong, but which one's better for you. And we talk about buckets of money, right? If you can build up these different buckets of taxed unique investments. So traditional 401k, you're going to pay taxes on in the future, right? Roth IRA, you're going to pay the taxes now, not have taxes in the future. So if you've got these different buckets of money with different tax qualifications around it, now project yourself into retirement and it's time to buy, a vacation home or a new car that you're like, all right, well, I've got all of these dollars. Can you use those different buckets of money to build a tax strategy to keep you in one tax bracket, prevent you from going into another one, where you can be strategic and kind of have these different tax puzzle pieces to put together for future use. So is traditional 401k or Roth IRA, which one is better? I say yes, maybe a combination.
Yeah, and the great thing that we see a lot, and because we have 25 plus years experience, each of us, in working with individual clients every day. I mean, we've started out with helping folks and now they're retired. So, I often tell folks that, I haven't retired yet, but I've retired many times and helping clients get through all those choices. And Roth money just helps it provide flexibility.
That's a great way of looking at it, that it provides flexibility and choice. And really, that's what we're always talking about, retirement. We want to put you in a position that you have a lot of choices. Yeah. And a Roth can help you do that.
Yeah, the other thing we think about is, we are in a historically low tax environment right now, right? Our brackets
I know where you're
and
going
so
with
forth.
this, yeah.
And we'll talk about that in future shows. But so you think about that and say, well, do we think taxes are going to go up, go down, or stay the same? If we think they're going to go up, that tax-free money is certainly a great thing.
Great advantage.
So it's definitely a great advantage there. So I think the answer is certainly it depends on the situation.
That's a great way
right?
of saying it, yep.
Don't want to do what your neighbor's doing necessarily. It's really want to do what's in your best interest.
Right, and knowing what your options are.
Yeah.
That you can have a 401k on a pre-tax basis, and depending upon your income, which for a married couple up to $193,000 a year, you can also have a Roth contribution.
Yeah.
So you can do both.
That's a great point. So when you are saving and investing for retirement or other goals, as well as if you're retired, there's a lot of financial decisions that you must make. When do I take Social Security? Am I investing in the right investments? All of the income strategies that come into play. And I'm going to encourage you to take advantage of a 30-minute free introductory call. Where on that call, we will actually review your situation, get an understanding really what you want to achieve, and then we'll kind of determine whether or not we can assist you along that journey. And you can schedule that call at hilltopwealthsolutions.com. We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, this is TJ with TJ21 Media Group. As you probably know, we love creating impact in our community, whether that's through Big Brothers Big Sisters, Life Treatment Center, Hope Ministries, Real Services, Cancer Resources, whatever it may be, we love making an impact. And we want to help you create impact in your community as well. If you purchase a sales video with us, so that's one of our many features, it's about 2 to 5 minutes long, whatever it may be, we are going to help you help your nonprofit at no additional cost by creating a special feature on them. We love getting involved, we love making a difference, and we want to help you share your love for others as well. And maybe your nonprofit is working with Habitat for Humanity or American Cancer Society. We want to help you help them get noticed. And they can use this video for social media, for their website, for TV, whatever they want to do. Purchase a sales video from us, and we're going to choose your favorite nonprofit and do a special for them. Here at TJ21, we are passionately committed to getting everyone noticed.
And welcome back to Your Wealth Health, where we are continuing to talk about retirement planning and the Secure Act. And I've got Beth Foley, a partner with Hilltop Wealth Solutions, and we've had a great conversation up to now covering some of the things that have changed here just in the last few weeks.
I think we've made our point that the Secure Act, and we're not even done yet, but the Secure Act is a little bit more than just required minimum distributions.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've kind of, analyzed this a lot in the firm and talked about, yes, there are certainly some that are going to be a negative effect, and then there's certainly some positives, isn't there?
Right. Where the IRS giveth, the IRS taketh away.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So next thing on our list was talking about annuities inside of retirement plans.
This is all brand new and allowing annuities within the retirement plans. Folks who work for hospitals or school districts and so forth are familiar with having annuities inside of their 403B plans. The addition of annuities being allowed within a 401k plan is all brand new to the Secure Act.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of folks out there are going to run across this in their plan. And in kind of the reasoning behind it, just to kind of, bring them up to speed, so to speak, is, annuities have the opportunity of having living benefit riders.
Correct.
And so with the people living longer, maybe a little bit unsure on the investment decisions. We feel this is why Congress felt as though it would be good to make it easier to have these inside a plan.
So let's talk about what a living benefit is, and just briefly. So a living benefit within an annuity is a contract owner's opportunity to withdraw a guaranteed amount of income from their annuity every year and not outlive that money. Now, it differs a little bit from a traditional annuitized annuity in that you can start and stop that income and still have access to the lump sum value within your annuity as well. So that's what a living benefit would be in a nutshell within a 401k plan.
And so, how we think about it often is a couple things. One is, it may or may not be right for one situation,
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And secondly is, the insurance company is not going to give you the benefit for nothing.
They do have some costs involved within it, and we want to talk about what those costs could be.
Yeah. So if you take a look at the screen, I'd like to go through this illustration that we've put together just to analyze a cost. So if you look at the scenario, we have assumed somebody at age 55 with a current balance in their retirement plan of $100,000, making an annual contribution of $10,000 a year, and then assuming that they're going to earn 7% over the period of time. Then we have the annuity and the investment portfolio. So we wanted to really compare both and see what the difference is. And annuities depend on the annuity company and the benefits, whether as it relates to cost. But you can see we've used an average expense ratio of 2.5%, whereas an investment portfolio with exchange traded funds and mutual funds on average of 0.85%. And you can see the net rate of return after fees for the annuities, 4.5%, where the investment portfolio is 6.15%. And the value is really where I want you to focus on, because the annuity after 10 years, starting with $100,000, putting in that $10,000 a year with a rate of return of 7%, you can see that the annuity would have accumulated just over $233,000. Whereas if you had a portfolio with exchange traded funds and mutual funds, you can see it would have accumulated to over $330,000, or over $98,000 of difference. And so one of the things that you really want to consider if you have this option in the future in your plan is, Beth had mentioned the living benefit riders that come with the annuity. is it worth to pay for those benefits for many years when you're really not using it?
During that time frame,
During
because
that
you're
time frame.
paying for the rider right now. What we know is that you would most likely be paying for that rider in the years that you're accumulating funds. Now, one of the things that we don't know yet is how annuity companies might adjust their products to better fit into a 401k plan. So that's still a bit of an unknown, and something to consider. The annuity products that we have now might look a little bit different if a company chooses to adjust their product to make it more attractive and a stronger comparison to a traditional mutual fund and exchange traded fund portfolio.
Yeah, so that's a great point. We don't know. Obviously, they're scurrying right now to kind of figure that out.
Sure,
right?
they want to be competitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I know insurance companies with in the annuity business are this is an opportunity, and so one of the things that we recommend is certainly in this area is you want to make sure that you work with a professional to understand the cost and the options and really how the benefit works.
Absolutely. One may not necessarily be better than the other one, and you and your neighbor sitting right next to you may have different needs. So we're not saying that annuities are bad. What we are saying, right, is that it's like know what the costs are, know what the benefits are, so that you can make the best possible decision for yourself.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Beth. I think here on Your Wealth Health, we really want folks to make sure that they make financial decisions based on their situation and what's best for their situation, not what their neighbor or friend or whatever has done.
Right.
And this is true with really all of the financial decisions that you're going to make.
I always say to my clients, I want to put you in the best position to make the best decision for yourself. My job isn't to make the decisions for you. It's to give you as much advice and information as I can. And that's what we're suggesting here too.
Yeah. So I think that's there's a really good point. So in this case, if you run across it again, this really takes some more analysis. Currently in your 401k, if you have mutual fund choices or exchange fund choices, most people don't look at expenses. They just pick the mutual funds based on performance, maybe based on their risk tolerance, and they're not as concerned. And in fact, there's been a real effort to kind of decrease the overall expenses.
Exactly. Over the past 10 years, we've seen different reporting requirements and costs themselves.
Yeah, sure. Well, Beth, thanks for joining me today, coming down from Royal Oak, Michigan, our office up there in Michigan, and helping me kick off Your Wealth Health.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Fox Michiana. So it's great, and I know you'll be back next week to talk in more detail. And so next week, I encourage you to join us. We're going to have a tax attorney join Beth and I, and we're going to dig more into the Secure Act, more into what might affect you when you get into retirement and the decisions that you may want to think about as it relates to your overall retirement planning. I'm also going to encourage you to submit questions for Your Wealth Health, and you can do that by going to yourwealthhealth.com. Submit your financial questions, and they just may get answered on the show. Secondly, is I'm going to remind you of a workshop, actually a series of workshops that we have coming up this month, which is about Social Security planning. And many people overlook this option. This is a big thing. Everybody has a pension. Everybody has a pension, and it's called Social Security. And so we're going to go in depth into how to maximize your Social Security. And that will be Thursday, March 26th and Tuesday, March 31st at the Holiday Inn on Douglas Road. And you can sign up at our website, yourwealthhealth.com. I'm also going to encourage you that if you've got questions and you need advice and guidance, or you just want a second opinion, go to hilltopwealthsolutions.com and we'll go ahead and schedule a 30-minute introductory call just to find out more about your goals and see if we can help. Thank you for joining me on our first show on Your Wealth Health, and we'll see you next week to talk more about retirement planning right here, Fox Michiana. See you next week.